Hello, darkness, my old friends. Could 3 wins be where the season ends? Let's talk about it. Joel Klatt had some things to say. Let's go.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, Badger fans? Welcome to Locked On Badgers, your team every single day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being an everydayer. Thank you for being part of the community. Today's episode brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first order. Today's show, it happened a bit ago, but Joel Klatt, college football analyst, talked about they may only win 3 games in reference to the Wisconsin Badgers. Let's talk a little bit about how close he could be if things went off the rails. What I'm still worried about, what could go wrong, because here's where I'm at, right? I'm a generally optimistic guy, and I'm pretty optimistic on the season. But if you go back to last year, I was pretty optimistic last year. And I think intellectually, we just have to be honest and say there are some concerns here. And let's talk about them a little bit. Otherwise, I don't know if we're being completely honest. I love the spring training optimism that, like in baseball, every year, every team is great. Everybody's in the best shape ever. But there are some legitimate things here that I'm concerned about. I think Joel Klatt is hitting on a couple of them. I don't think it's going to be 3 wins. Make no mistake. I think that is a little hyperbolic. But let's talk about some of the things I'm concerned about, plus some of the biggest fall practice storylines I'm excited about, things I'm excited to see. But let's get into some of what Joel Klatt had to say. The first one is, again, I don't know if they win 3 games, Joel Klatt warned in an interview he did. I don't know if they win 3 games. What the hell? I tell you, if they don't win 3 games, I'm going to start a Locked On Aquariums podcast or something. I'll have to do something more enjoyable. For my sanity, they need to win more than 3 games. So a lot of this comes from the schedule, which he's talked about. We've looked at it legitimately. If you look at the schedule, there's really obviously Middle Tennessee, right? You have Miami, Ohio. Wisconsin's going to be a favorite there. I think they're going to be a favorite against Maryland at home for sure. They should be a solid favorite in those 3 games. The rest of them, I don't know who you would solidly say. And again, I'm kind of taking a pessimistic look here. I'm kind of looking through the lens of what Joel Klatt is looking at. But if you want to be honest, if you want to be maybe pessimistic is not the right word. People would say realistic, maybe. How many teams is Wisconsin going to be favored against this year? It's probably not. Well, it's not going to be Oregon, Bama, Ohio State. Doesn't mean you can't beat those teams. You're probably not going to be favored against them. You're Iowa, you get them at home, but let's see what Iowa looks like. That could be a very close game. I don't think you're going to be favored at Michigan. I don't think you're going to be favored probably against Illinois or Indiana. We'll see how those teams look. Those teams are a long ways off. But yeah, Joel Klatt is looking at that schedule. Again, he's saying the schedule's brutal. You can't make those changes and think you're going to develop your way out of it with that schedule in front of you. This hits on the other thing that I think is interesting. And I think this is the better point that Joel Klatt brings up. I think just looking at the schedule and saying, I don't know if they're going to win 3 games can be a little lazy. But this is a program right now making a lot of changes while kind of sailing into a hurricane schedule. And it doesn't mean those changes don't have to be made, because Phil Longo was a problem. He had to go. But there are real concerns and questions when you change an offensive coordinator. Schemes don't always happen right away. We've talked about on the basketball side how excited I am to see Kirk Penny as this scheme continues to evolve and those players get more practice reps in that scheme. Well, this is year 1 with a new offensive coordinator and a new quarterback. If we were playing a team this year and we said, man, they switch out their offensive coordinator or the quarterback, it might take them a while to get going. That's a point we would make. That's a point we have made about teams we're going to play. It might take them a little while to get going. Don't be surprised if early on, even if it's a great fit. And I think a lot of us really like Jeff Grimes. I really like the hire of Jeff Grimes. I like Billy Edwards Jr. I think those are really nice pieces they added. They make a ton of sense. It's still valid to wonder if that's going to click right away. Now, you do get a runway, right? When I say runway, you get a couple teams that aren't the greatest to start off with, and that should allow Wisconsin to iron out a few potential questions, issues, fix some of the alignment stuff. But yeah, it's a fair question to wonder, as Joel Klatt is pointing out, You're making a lot of changes while playing a really hard schedule. And it doesn't mean making those changes was the wrong decision, but it does mean that it might take a while for those changes to fully reap the benefits for the Badgers. You know what I mean? I think it's a fair point. Let's get in the comments. We got a couple people here. Yeah, he says, hello, Dark my old friend. Again, I don't think it's going to be 3 wins. I think it's noteworthy that a national college analyst says it. Adam Pettis says, can't stay up for this, but can't wait to hear this tomorrow. 3 is the absolute floor. I really believe we have upgraded where we need to, even if we have some issues at tackle and corner. Even 3 as a floor is crazy to me. I can't. It's just so weird to wrap your mind around as a Badger fan. I've been a Badger fan for 20 on years. It's insane to wrap my mind around 3 as a floor. It's just incredible to me. Herb says he may very well be closer to 3 than closer to bowl eligibility. Schedule, a lot of changes. There are some spots where I feel like the depth is a little concerning. We're going to talk about that when I continue kind of asking about like what can go wrong. And again, the point of this show is to kind of talk about this, but also let's provide a little bit of counterpoint, because I feel like we, and not just we, all programs right now are in optimism season. This is kind of what it looks like. And I'm not saying that optimism is misguided whatsoever. I really like a lot of what happened this offseason. But let's also just have the conversation about, all right, well, what's the other side of some of this? And I think it's just kind of interesting if we're going to try to look at it honestly here. Kate Berry says we are underdogs. She also says Joel is a loser. Kate's awesome. I'm glad that she's here in the chat as always. Roger Dodger shaking his fist at Klatt. I'm sorry, I'm trying to put a few more of these comments up, but my mouse is not cooperating. Yep, here we go. Kate Berry in the chat. Roger Dodger in the chat. Bird Dogger says only if we lose Edwards do we hit that 3-win spot. Yeah, that's a good point. But I think we're actually pretty insulated at quarterback this year. And I don't say that lightly. I really believe that with Daniel O'Neal, they've upgraded at that number 2 spot pretty significantly over what was the number 2 spot last year. I'll say this. I won't use that as this is where I'll pivot to this one, Bird Dogger. I won't use that as an excuse if they do win 3. If they lose Tyler Van Dyke, if they lose Billy Edwards Jr., to me, it's still not okay to win 3 games this year. Because you spent a good chunk of money and resources on Daniel O'Neal. You can't win 3 games even with Daniel O'Neal. You won 5 with Braden Locke last year, and I think Daniel O'Neal's better. So, yeah, I don't think that would be enough. Again, I don't think they will lose 3, but it is an interesting conversation. Robert Sorensen said only 3 games and Fitt gets fired. Tyler Strieber says Joel Klatt is on crack. I think Vegas has it right. The line is 5.5. I expect and we'll be happy with 6-6, especially if UW passes the eye test and we see improvement. I think it's well said. Tyler, good friend of the show. Zach Bartz, who is going to be coming down every year. We do a Locked On event. So I would love to see everybody there. We get together, we break bread, we talk Badgers. Last year we saw some high school hoops too. So as a group, we got together and watched Garlock play. It's a ton of fun. This year we're doing it for the Iowa game. Zach Bartz, again, my mouse is killing me, but he says we should be 3-1 at the bye. Should beat Middle Tennessee State, Miami, Ohio, and Maryland. Rest, who knows? We'll win more than 3, but we'll improve it mode. So I get where he's coming from. It's just a bit much. I agree. It is a bit much, but there are some still questions on this team. I'm going to get into that next, including are we relying too much on some of the younger players this year? Some of the unproven players. Are we already penciled certain guys in as performers? And maybe we haven't seen it for a full season. We're going to talk about it next on Locked On Badgers. First, a quick second for our friends of the show over at Monarch Money. Again, Monarch Money is incredible. I'm going to try to get my mouse to work here. Absolutely kill me. Joel Klatt doesn't have to deal with tech issues on his show. Let's get here. Monarch Money coming up next. But first, a quick second to say thank you for tuning into Locked On Badgers. Monarch Money is, again, I've talked about it, is absolutely incredible. If you've ever wanted to get a little bit better with managing your money, because it's a really important part of what we have to do as adults. It's important part of adulting is let's manage our money better. And I want to challenge everybody in the Locked On Badger community. Let's be a little bit better, right? Let's alleviate a little bit of our financial stress. And a great way to do it, if you choose to, is at Monarch Money. And I'm telling you this from a friend to a group of friends. That's because that's what this community is. This is a tool I personally use. It's a tool my wife and I use. We use it to track all our finances. It has every single investment we have. You can get it all in one spot. You can make collaborative goals. You can see your spending. It makes really neat graphical presentations of where your money goes, which helps my brain kind of sort it out. I love the tool. I nerd out on the data. I nerd out on the numbers, and my wife likes how you can set up goals and budgets and plans together. So if you're interested in it, use code LOCKEDONCollege for 50% off your first year. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. That's code LOCKEDONCollege at Monarch Money for 50% off your first year. MonarchMoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. All right, let's get back into this. I want to get some of your comments. Hopefully my mouse is working a little bit better here. Again, stuff Joel Klatt doesn't have to deal with on his show. Dominique says, if you want to know the best sports estimates, it's Vegas. It's always Vegas. We should be doing a really cool show coming up on a person that helps can talk about some of those futures and spreads, and we'll dive into that a little bit. Some of the issues I have still with this team, issues is the wrong word, but questions. I do think there's a lot of spots where we're relying on younger guys that to some degree we've maybe already penciled in as they've arrived. These pieces are good to go. I feel great about these guys, when I think there still might be a bit of a question mark with some of them. Let's talk about even a Christian Allegro, who I love Christian Allegro. He hasn't been a starter for a full season yet, and we're already anticipating some big things from him. And I think it's easy to anticipate those things because of the physical skill set that he has. Like, he's an animal. Sideline to sideline, hits like a Mack truck. But we do need to see it over the course of an entire year, right? And it does raise the question that last year's defense, last year's front seven wasn't chaos-inducing enough. Not enough TFLs, not enough sacks, not enough disruption. And he was a part of that, right? He should have played more. I agree. I said that for weeks, but he was a part of that unit that wasn't very good. Tackett Curtis. A lot of people, again, I really like Tackett. I've followed Tackett Curtis since he was a high school senior in Manny High School in Louisiana. I've had his uncle on the show a bunch of times. I talked to recruiting guys about him. I love Tackett Curtis. I love the idea of Tackett Curtis, but that's all it is right now. It's an idea. It's an idea of a sideline-to-sideline blue chip, see ball, destroy ball type of a linebacker, but now we got to see it. He's also a player that's battled injuries for several years. And it does feel like we've already penciled it in. We've already penciled in this guy is going to be, this is the best inside linebacker duo since we've had for, well, let's see if he stays healthy, which again, more than anything I want. And I think it could be a dynamic inside linebacker duo, but that's a question. I think it's a fair question. Again, I hit on switching out offensive coordinator and quarterback in the same season. I think that's something that could slow the development of an offense. It can slow the paces of an offense. I think obviously the left tackle / offensive depth chart, I think that's a question. Is it going to be Hines in? Are they going to kick Brunner over? I kind of continue to think the best answer there is probably kicking Brunner over. But I know they've said Hines is in there. I know they've said Mandel is in there. So we'll see. But that's a question. That's obviously a big part of this offensive line. And on top of that, I still think you have some depth questions there. So if you lost another guy or two, you start to get in some weird spots on the offensive line. Black Ranger said, we're winning 8 to 9 games, calling it. Let's go. He also says Iowa is a dub. Let's go, because I would love this. It's in Madison. It's our Locked On meetup event. If we could get a win on a Locked Up meetup event, because we've been to Ohio State football, lost. Penn State football, lost. Oregon basketball, lost. Pretty soon people aren't going to come to the Locked On events because they lose every time we do it. So, yes, I would love to beat Iowa, restock the trophy case, and I do think we have a pretty good chance of getting them. Get them at home. Iowa lost a lot of pieces, lost a running back, lost a lot of six-year guys on defense. I think we're going to be better and deeper on the defensive line, the front seven. Not to turn this into an optimism podcast because those are coming up too. I do think we can get Iowa, and we darn well better. Herb says 4 wins. Oh my gosh. Herb, you and Joel Klatt are killing me, but you might not be wrong. Let's see here. A couple more thoughts. Bradley Collins says the offense is going to be fine. My biggest concern is the defense, as Fickle has the defensive background. Defense has to get better. I do like where the offense is going. 100% like where the offense is going. Kate says, hope the defense is better. Black Ranger says, hot take, Michigan will be a close game that we can win. I think Michigan doesn't terrify me, but they have to be the favorites in that game. They just have to be. You have to go there. You do get a bye right before Michigan, which I think is incredibly helpful, but Michigan is going to be able to run the ball probably. They're going to be good on defense because they recruit really well. They bring in high high-profile transfer guys. They should be better at quarterback, right? For all the talk about how bad Wisconsin was last year, Michigan was equally bad. Now they bring in the number one quarterback prospect in the country. He doesn't have to be great for them to be better at quarterback this year. And I think he will be okay. So they're going to be better at quarterback. They're still going to be tough. They're going to be at home. That's a tough game. One Wisconsin can win. 100% they can win it, but that's going to be a tough one at home. Let's see. Yeah, Brian Shetty, it's a valid question, man. If wins are that low, I question if Luke Fickell survives the year. If they win 3 games, it's a valid question. Again, I don't think they will. I think they are going to be better. And one of the things I was talking about, those younger players that Wisconsin's really relying on this year. You also have a Jaden Ballard. You have a Trech Kekahuna. You have really Dylan Jones, Darion Dupree, potentially Emilio Agard, Austin Brown, the 2 inside linebackers. You're counting very heavily on Charles Perkins to be able to play at this level, at a high level. There's just a lot of pieces. Nicholas Clayton. There's a lot of pieces that Wisconsin is counting on this year that don't have a track record of full season success in the Big Ten. And I think you have to at least look at that and say, well, not all of these guys are probably going to hit, right? It's similar to last year in the transfer portal for basketball. Not every one of those guys hit. I don't know if you hit 100% on the players that you don't have a great track record on. And if that's the case, those are reasons for optimism that we're counting on. So I like a lot of those players. I think Austin Brown's going to be really good. The coaches are glowing about him. I like our inside linebacker room. I like the bodies they brought in on the front 7. I like Dylan Jones. I like all these pieces like everyone else. But it is fair to say until they prove it on the field, a lot of these pieces are projection. A lot of these pieces are potential. And they need to do it now. They need to go and perform, and the coaches need to put them in the right spots to perform. And I think because of that, it's a bit of a question mark still. You guys tell me I'm crazy. And but for the record, again, I don't think 3 wins is the thing. Like, we're better than that. But I can see when you start squinting at what Joel Klatt is maybe looking at, I can see some of the questions and some of the reasons. Nick Osen just texted me. Our great guy, Nick Osen. I'm sure it's probably good news. Nick's a great dude, phenomenal human being. And here's the other thing I want to throw up from Klatt. He said, as much as I like Luke Fickell, think he's an excellent coach, I could even make a strong argument that UW could be a better team this year, and it's not going to show up in the win column. So again, he talks about the schedule, which we talked about. For him, it's schedule, and it's making some changes going into a really hard schedule where he thinks it's probably going to take a couple years for these things to work. And if that's the case, you don't have an unlimited amount of time in college football. A couple other things that I wrote down as potential concerns. To me, it's we talked about left tackle depth, the schedule, Billy Edwards, new scheme. Cornerback depth is still a little weird, depending on what happens with Nyzier Fortgreen, right? Obviously, Wisconsin announced media days. They're going to continue fighting that battle. They hope to get him back. If he doesn't come back, that's the same kind of issue we've talked about. It's not the deepest cornerback room. I actually don't think that's a massive deal because I like Emilio Agard. I like the young pieces, and you have Rico on the other side. You can win with that quarterback room as long as you get pass rush. Can you get pass rush? It's a darn good question. You didn't get it last year. So hopefully they can get it this year. Couple more questions here. Let's go more and more. Ben says, I get what Klatt was saying, but I think we'll be better. I do too. I also think we'll get better. Bo Dragon with a good point. There could be a high attrition rate after the first few physical games. Lack of depth could get ugly. This is a really good point. Wisconsin goes through a meat grinder. They go through at Michigan, and regardless of what you think about Michigan, regardless of if Underwood's going to be good or not, Michigan's going to be a physical team. Michigan is going to want to run the ball. They're going to punch you between the mouth or punch you in the mouth between the tackles. They're going to be physical in the front 7. That's going to be a physical game. And I was talking about this with a Twitter group I'm in, a really good group of Badger fans, but they said, well, injuries can happen anywhere. They can, but you're going to get hurt more playing the bigger, stronger, more physical teams. In my opinion, you just are. Those teams are going to beat you up more. They're going to keep the games closer. You're not going to have a chance to rotate out as many people because you need your frontline guys in there more. The Michigans, the Iowas, the Ohio States, the Oregons, they're going to beat you up. Those teams want to run the ball. Those teams have phenomenal defensive lines typically. Oregon might have the best defensive line in the conference this year. And you play those 4 teams in a row. You're going to come out of that stretch beaten up. You just are. Luckily, you get a bye after that. But then you come right back in and you have a stretch that features Washington, Illinois, Indiana, Minnesota. it's a tough stretch, and Bo is correct. It could really beat you up a little bit. A couple more questions here or thoughts. Yeah, Mike Marlin says cornerback spot should be interesting battle to watch. I'm going to talk next about some of the fall practice storylines I'm most excited about. I'm hopefully going to be able to go to several practices. I'm excited for that. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of those things I'm looking forward to. But yeah, to wrap this up, I don't think it's a 3-win team, but it's telling that there's a national analyst talking about that. I think that's telling with how far maybe just the perception of where we are has gotten to and has fallen to, because for years Wisconsin was always a benefit of the doubt program. You just knew they were rock solid. It was just benefit of the doubt. They were going to favor them against this group of teams every year. And Wisconsin's lost that. They've lost a little bit of that mystique, a little bit of that aura. They've lost some of that physicality. Can they get it back this year? They're going to need to. I do think they get some of it back. I think this is heading in the right direction. I've said that several times, but I understand where Joel Klatt is probably coming from on some of it. All right, we're going to take a quick second. I'm going to come back and talk about some of the spring practice storylines I'm most excited about, including a new certain dude who's going to be leading this team. I'm excited for that one. Coming up next, Locked On Badgers. First, a quick second for our friends of the show. Quick second, as always, to talk about our incredible friends over at Gametime. I just talked about Monarch Money as something I use. This is another product that I use. I've used personally on the way to a stadium. I've told that story. I had the tickets in my hands before I got to the arena. Go Gametime. If you need tickets, you want to get to more events, you want to save money, there is no better ticketing platform than Gametime, where you can have pictures of the seats before you sit down. You know exactly what you're going to get. You get last-minute flash deals. So sometimes the longer you wait, the better prices you get. You don't longer have to plan months in advance, which for me is incredible because I don't plan months for advance in almost anything. I'm not good at that, which Gametime comes in so handy for me. Plus, concerts, theaters, whatever it is, you can get it over on Gametime. Right now, snag the tickets without the stress. Over at Gametime, download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms to apply. Again, create the account, redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Okay, let's talk spring practice storylines I'm really excited about. And I definitely want to bring up more of your comments, but honest to goodness, my mouse is killing me and I may not be able to. It's not moving very well. So I'm also an IT guy for a living. So yeah. All right. Biggest storylines, fall practice. Number one for me, I know there's massive questions about left tackle. Left tackle doesn't matter if Billy Edwards Jr. is bad. Left tackle doesn't matter if the Badgers offense is a disaster. So to me, the biggest one is it's Billy Edwards Jr. It's his offense. It's how does this look? Does it look like we're grasping the concepts that Jeff Grimes wants us to grasp? Does it look like we're putting pressure on the defense? Does it look like we can run the ball? Does it look like Billy Edwards is an average to above average Big Ten quarterback? That's so important. To me, that's number one. This offense will go as this quarterback goes. Quite frankly, this team will go as this quarterback goes. Complementary football. They've talked about it. You got to be better on offense, which allows you to be better on defense. And so much of that is intertwined into who is Billy Edwards Jr. for the Badgers this year. Because, again, it doesn't matter at left tackle if Billy Edwards is bad. You could have Jonathan Ogden over there. It's not going to matter if your quarterback play is super subpar. Super subpar is a poor way to say it. But if your quarterback plays subpar again, it doesn't matter what you're doing on the line. You need better quarterback play. So that's the first thing I'm looking for. Number two, I'm really interested in the rotation in the front seven. I can't wait to see how Coach Tressel, Coach Mitchell, Coach Whitlow, how they align the chess pieces that they now have at their disposal, because they talked all offseason, and I agree with them. We got bigger, we got better, we got deeper, plus we have Nicholas Clayton. They've talked a lot about it, and I can't wait to see how 3rd and 7, what are they thinking? Just, it doesn't even have to be the final product. I'm not going to take a look at the first time they run some type of situational drill where they're in a pass rushing shell and they're lining up. I'm not going to say that's what they're going to do all year, but I'm fascinated to see what they're thinking, how they're lining the defense up, who's going to be on the edges, who's going to be on the interior, what kind of alignment are they using? Because they have a lot of pieces to use, a lot of pieces to incorporate. I can't wait to see it. Third one for me is the battle left tackle. I've talked about it. Yeah, I mean, not going to beat that one to death, but man, that I don't know who that's going to be yet, and that's a pretty big part of an offense line. I think it could be Davis Heinzen, although still wonder if Brunner's just the best answer because I think he might be the best player to put there. Number 4 for me is cornerback depth. Again, this is more predicated upon Nysier Forkreen If he comes back and that battle is able to be kind of won, however you'd phrase that, that issue mostly goes away. Because then you have Rico Nizier, you have Emilio behind him, you have Deone Hill behind him. You're fine. Wisconsin has won a lot of games with lesser cornerback rooms than that. I think that's fine as long as Nizier Forkrin comes back. Okay, let me get some comments in here. It looks like my mouse is working. Jim, if these predictions were accurate, we wouldn't need to play the games. 100%. No doubt there. Kate Berry says, if we only win 3 games, that will be brutal, but Bama and Ohio State. Yeah, tough schedule. Bo Dragon, there's literally not one defensive player that's proven other than Rico Hallman. I would disagree. Listen, I think Preston Zachman's a good player. I think he is proven. Nizier Forkrin, if he comes back, that's definitely another proven piece. Say what you will about Daryl Peterson. I think he's proven to at least be a reliable player on the edge. Then you get into questions. Which was my point. Like, there's a lot of unproven pieces at this level. Maybe they've proven it at a different level, at a lower level. At this level, there are a lot of unproven pieces, which is kind of the point I'm making here. But there is more than just Rico, right? There is Nizier, there is Preston Zachman. I think Daryl Peterson I put in that. I think Christian Allegros looked great for the reps he's gotten. I would maybe put him in that proven category as well. But there are real questions about a lot of younger pieces that they're inserting just because we haven't seen it. Robert Sorensen says, don't come at my Tack and Curtis Love. Dude, I love Tack. I think Tack could be phenomenal this year. Again, though, we just got to see it. We just got to see it. Ryan needs a dub. Yes, thank you. Ryan does need a dub. Wes says, pretty sure we are winning a national championship. Joel Klatt is high. Let's go, Wes. I'm just trying to pick up any other comments we got here. Will Hanna says 5-7 with a floor of 4 and a ceiling of 8. Man, I'm really hoping we get to 6-6, Will. I think you're probably right, though. I do think the ceiling's 8. I think I've said that before. I can't imagine how we get to 9 with this schedule and some of the pieces we're still working with. If we get to 8, it's incredible. Like, that's a really good win for this schedule and what this team is trying to do this year, in incorporating some new pieces at quarterback coach, offensive coordinator, new quarterback, et cetera, et cetera. 8 wins would be great. 4 wins would be tough, man. 4 wins would be tough. Kate Berry says, all the guys he's talking about is fire. Love all these guys. Yeah, listen, I like a lot. So here's what I want to make sure I don't come across as. I think Dylan Jones is going to be really good. He's been on the show. I've been super high on him forever. But there's just a difference between being high on somebody and then actually seeing them do it in the Big Ten. I think it is fair until you see them do it to have that question. And I think there's a lot of players on this roster that we're counting on this year. Jaden Ballard is another one. Trech Kahuna is another one. Although Trech has certainly had moments, right? The LSU game, but put it together for a full season. Be healthy, put it together for a full season. And I'm not going to kill guys for getting hurt. But that's also, as Coach Anderson, who comes on the show all the time, says, the best ability is availability. You got to be healthy. And there's a couple guys that need to be able to stay healthy and put it together this year. Barry LN says, dude, it's time for a haircut. Yeah, dude, my hair is getting so long. I honestly don't know what to do with it. And I don't really want to get it cut, but I also don't really know what to do with it. He's probably right. It's probably getting close to haircut time for me. Smo. I haven't seen Smo in a while. Says, on Wisconsin. Let's go. Tony P, new OC, new quarterback, lost the left tackle. Defensive line bigger, but better, question mark. Not one experienced running back. I would say 4 to 5 is the realistic expectation. Listen, that's a fair point, Tony. Here's what I'd say on a couple of these. New offensive coordinator, yes, but better than Longo, I think. New quarterback, yes, but better than Braden Locke. Defensive line bigger, yes, but better, question mark. Yes, it is better, I think. So I hear it, and all of these are fair critiques and points, which I think is what Joel Klatt was talking about. I do think some of these changes are going to be pretty beneficial for the Badgers. I really believe that. But yeah, beating a dead horse, I'm not going to say it again, but now they got to prove it. Now they absolutely have to prove it. Couple more here. Let's see. Sorry, I'm not going to get all these comments, which I apologize for. I'm having a few IT issues, and then the comments I got behind on them all. But I do appreciate you guys so much. You guys and gals are amazing and awesome. Thank you for jumping in the show. We'll do a bunch of content this week. I plan on being down in Platteville. I'm going to be doing some live reaction shows. We'll do a live call-in show. I think Nick Ostin's coming on the show. Could be a couple other special guests that are coming on, which I'm really stoked for. And ultimately, I just want to say thank you, like, to everybody on this channel, in the Discord. Sincerely, heartfelt thank you for being a part of this community and helping us all do what we're doing right here, having a conversation, and hopefully making it a little more enjoyable to be a Badgers fan, because that's what this is all about. So on Wisconsin, appreciate you guys so much, and a lot of content coming up this week with fall practice. We have made it. Badger fans, we've made it. We have made it. And I may not have AC in my office today, which you might be able to tell, but we have made it to the start of fall practice. Football is almost here. Let's go.